Recently, there was a church shooting at Crosspoint Community Church in Wayne, Michigan. I'm going to lay out the facts of this tragic event, then dive into a big question. Would Jesus have approved of this church shooting, either the attack or the response? As someone who's wrestled with faith, studied scripture, and seen the impact of violence in our communities, I'm approaching this with both facts and a spiritual lens. Let's unpack this together. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.
But we begin tonight with the interview you will see only here on 7. A security guard stopping an attempted mass shooting at a local church. Welcome to 7 News Detroit at 6. I'm Carolyn Clifford.
And I'm Simon Shakette. Thank you for joining us. This all playing out at Crosspoint Community Church in Wayne on Sunday. Thankfully, nobody was killed, and that's thanks in part to Jay Trombley.
7 News Detroit reporter Randy Wembley talked with Trombley about the moment he jumped into action and what he was thinking during those chaotic moments.
Guys, these are some of the bullet holes from that gunman during that shooting. The man who stopped that active shooter trained for years to meet that moment, but he never knew until Sunday whether he would run away from danger and the sound of gunfire or run to it.
Heard a noise, thought it was mechanical at first, turned to see people running. Asked them through a door what had happened. I thought it was in the cry room, and a young woman said AR-15. And I said, where? She pointed, and I headed in that direction.
Jay Trombley is a member of Crosspoint Community Church and its safety team, which sprang into action when 31-year-old Brian Browning showed up Sunday morning armed with a rifle and a handgun looking to do harm.
Found out that evil came to our door, but God's hand for protection was right over us. So many things happened that can only be God-driven. The parishioner shows up late to engage him with his pickup truck to slow him down. A double pane window stopped 5 rounds that I'm fairly certain where I was standing to look at the wall behind me, to see the impacts, to see that where rounds from his rifle traveled and impacted, God's hand was protecting me.
Trombley and other safety team members, all average citizens with no police or military experience, have undergone extensive training in the event they encounter an active shooter. He says Sunday's nightmare underscores a harsh reality.
You are your own first responder.
Browning attended a few services at the church where his mother was baptized. Trombley is coming to terms with the reality that the cost of saving lives on Sunday was taking one.
I realized what happened yesterday, what my actions did. You know, I will reconcile with the Lord on the time for that. You know, I was protecting his people.
Watching this unfold, especially knowing kids and family were inside, is heartbreaking. It brings up memories of other attacks on other religious spaces, like the Mother Emanuel shooting in Charleston in 2015. So let's shift gears and explore the spiritual question. What would Jesus think about this incident? To answer this, we need to look at both the Hebrew scriptures, often called the Old Testament, and the New Testament, where Jesus' teachings come into focus. To my surprise, there's a stark contrast between the two, especially on the ideas of purging evil and pursuing justice versus Jesus' approach to violence and conflict. In the Hebrew scriptures, particularly in the Torah, there's a strong emphasis on purging evil to protect the community's moral and spiritual integrity. Deuteronomy repeatedly commands the Israelites to purge the evil from among you in cases of severe sin like idolatry, rebellion, or false testimony. For example, Deuteronomy 13:5 and 17:7 mandate death to those who lead others astray or defy authority, with the goal of maintaining covenantal purity. This isn't just punishment. It's a communal responsibility to eliminate threats to holiness, often through capital punishment, as seen in verses like Deuteronomy 21:21 and 22:21. Also, the pursuit of justice is central to the Hebrew Scriptures, reflecting God's character. Deuteronomy 16:20 commands, "Pursue justice and justice alone," emphasizing fairness and protection for those who are vulnerable, like widows, orphans, and strangers. Prophets like Isaiah and Micah echo this call, urging people to seek justice and to do justly. Justice often meant standing against oppression, sometimes through strict measures to maintain order. Now let's contrast this with Jesus' teaching in the New Testament, which, to my surprise, seemed to challenge or even contradict those earlier commands. Jesus emphasizes peace and nonviolence in a radical way. In the Sermon on the Mount, he says, "You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also." He goes further, instructing us to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. This is a direct departure from the retributive justice and purging of evil seen in the Torah. When Peter draws a sword to defend Jesus during his arrest in Gethsemane, Jesus rebukes him, saying, "Put your sword back in its place. For all who draw the sword will die by the sword." Jesus even tells Pilate that his kingdom is not of this world, so his followers won't fight with violence to save him. These teachings suggest a rejection of violence, even in self-defense or defense of others, which stands in tension with the Hebrew Scriptures' calls to purge evil and pursue justice through decisive action. This creates a clear tension. The Hebrew Scriptures often frame violence as a tool for divine justice or community protection, as seen in the conquest of Canaan or laws mandating punishment. Yet, Jesus appears to reject this approach, advocating for non-resistance and absorbing violence rather than returning it. While the Hebrew Scriptures allows for regulated force to eliminate evil, Jesus' blanket statement, "Do not resist the one who is evil," seems to leave little room for even defensive violence, challenging the early mandates to actively purge wrongdoing or enforce justice through physical means. Applying this to Wayne, Michigan shooting, let's break it down into two parts: Browning's attack and the security team's response. Obviously, there's no way Jesus would have approved of Browning's actions. His attack on a peaceful gathering in a house of worship violates the sanctity of life, a principle upheld across both testaments. It's an act of unjust violence, which Scripture condemns, as Psalm 11:5 states that God hates the lover of violence. Even if Browning was in a mental health crisis, as suggested by police, Jesus' ministry focused on healing and reconciliation, not destruction. He would have likely grieved this brokenness rather than endorsed the harm. The response by the security team is more complex. They shot and killed Browning to stop him, likely saving many lives, including those of children inside the church. From a human perspective, and even through the lens of the Hebrew scriptures, this could be seen as a form of pursuing justice or purging evil to protect the community, aligning with Deuteronomy's call to eliminate threats. Pastor Bobby Kelly Jr. noted as a member used a truck to stop Browning, and the security guard engaged after, actions driven by a need to protect the flock. However, Jesus' teachings push hard against returning violence, even in defense. His call to turn the other cheek and not resist the one who is evil suggests he might have grieved the loss of life on both sides and questioned if there was another way. Unlike the Torah's emphasis on purging evil through decisive action, Jesus seems to prioritize peace and nonviolence over physical defense, creating a direct contrast with the Hebrew scriptures' approach to handling threats. Honestly, I don't think Jesus would have approved of any violence in this situation. Surely not Browning's attack, and likely not even the lethal response, given his radical call to nonviolence. His teachings in the New Testament stand in stark opposition to the Hebrew scriptures' commands to purge evil and pursue justice through force. Where numerous Deuteronomy passages mandate removing threats and purging the evil to protect the community, Jesus' calls for loving enemies and absorbing harm rather than retaliating. Truthfully, the radical departure from the Torah as presented by Jesus came as a surprise and as a disappointment. I would feel the weight of protecting loved ones if I were in that church. Hearing gunshots and seeing kids in danger, I know I couldn't stand still. There's real tension here. Life is sacred. Peace is the goal, but evil sometimes demands a response. Maybe Jesus would have wanted us to focus on healing Browning's brokenness long before it reached this point. So, what do you think? Did my research lead me to the wrong conclusion? Would Jesus have approved of any part of this? How do we reconcile his nonviolent teachings with the Hebrew scriptures call to purge evil and pursue justice? How do we balance peace and protection in the nonviolent world? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this resonated with you, share it with someone to keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay blessed and keep seeking truth. Peace.